Hey there, I'm Scott Finney with DropTheStrap.com and decided I would shoot this video off of some feedback I've gotten recently. When I start working with somebody, it's typically talking about a specific website or web address that is not achieving the goals that they wanted to achieve. And so everything starts with an initial technical SEO audit of your website. You might have some Google My Business, Google Maps, or um, all kinds of potential goals online. But when it boils down to it, your whatever.com is the central hub. It's the main communication channel with Google to say, hey, here's who I am, and here's what I'm up to, and here's what's going on here. So you need to clearly articulate that to Google, make sure Google understands who you are, where you are, what you're doing, so that people looking for you in any of those ways, whether it be a direct brand search for you by name, or whether it be based off of looking for the services that you provide. If Google doesn't understand who you are and what you're up to, then they won't know when people are looking for you that they need to deliver you. And that is what it all boils down to. Google just wants to give the searcher what it is they're looking for, so that whenever you're looking for anything, you continue to go back to Google. If Google's not giving you what you're looking for, then you'll go somewhere else. Let's see. I'm going to keep the camera on me, but I am going to pull up some notes, and I'll do a screen share in a minute here. But I wanted to go ahead. Okay, so the reason I shot this is recently I've been getting a lot of compliments on. I started working on a project. I do this initial audit and I send it to the client. They look it over, or the prospect that ends up becoming the client. They look it over and they're like, "Wow, this is awesome." I need to put some testimonials on there, but I'm getting excellent feedback from the audit. Meanwhile, I don't advertise that I do these, so hey, here we go. So what it all starts with is a 16-point initial website audit, and these are the 16 areas I'm going to look at. And depending on what your project is, if you're a local business with a physical location, or you're a service area business, or you're an online e-commerce site, there are a few areas where I go deeper and on some of these points, but I hit on all these points with every scenario to make sure that Google understands who you are and what's going on. So let's talk through. So what we're doing here is we take a look at what you have and compare that to your goals, and then identify what were the low hanging. Well, first identify the low hanging fruit of what quick wins can we get, what quick updates, and then what needs to be done in a longer term skating to where the puck is scenario. And so what I'll do with this audit is when the client orders the audit, then the way I deliver it is through video, and I walk through all the results with them. And so why video? Well, it's easier for me to explain what I'm seeing. When I'm doing these audits, it takes, depending on the project, but it takes at least over an hour. And during that time, I'm noting stuff I'm seeing, but I'm also noticing stuff that I'm kind of putting in the back of my head that might be relevant later. And it's more of a stream of consciousness of going through and analyzing all the information, right? So I find it easier with a video that I can perform the audit, gathering all the stuff I need, but then going back through and talking through it, I can touch on some points to bring it to the customer's awareness. But maybe it's doesn't need the to be articulated out, but that way they're aware of it. So it brings more value to the recipient when I walk through it in a video. I'll identify the low-hanging fruit, walk through all the technical stuff. A lot of these reporting softwares are geared towards technical SEOs. Search engine optimization is what SEO stands for, and that just means the indicators that you're giving to the search engines. Those indicators can be visible on the website, like images, or they could be hidden in the code like schema. And that's why a video is good, because I can explain, all right, we're looking at the schema now, and this is why schema is important, and here's what we're seeing with your schema. And then the client doesn't have to do any additional like research or anything. They're getting like, they just want to know what are the action items, and that allows me to get through that stuff and not get them overwhelmed with the vocabulary. All right, so then pointing out where oh yeah, also the video helps with pointing out the areas where I can help, and most importantly, the areas where I'm interested in helping. There's some things you're good at, and there's some things that you're not that good at, and you do a better job when you're working on the stuff that you're good at and you're interested in doing. So it helps me help you when I can say, hey, here are the areas that need work, and I want to help you work on those. And here are the areas that need work, and here are the people I suggest to help you with those areas, because I'm not interested in that stuff. And then also just, when you're running a thriving, successful, revenue positive business, then you don't necessarily have a whole lot of free time to, block, screen sharing time and sit down and that's both ways with my schedule and yours. So we can do the back and forth emails and the Calendarlies and all that stuff, but when it comes to just presenting a lot of information to you, it helps doing that. Plus on YouTube, if you're not aware, you can watch on double time. So I try to get through it quickly, but at the same time, I am conversational. So no offense if you can listen to me on double time. I listen on double time to podcasts and books all the time and love it. So to get more like detailed during the audit, the tools that I use Google Drive to store all the resources and stuff. You'll have some files afterwards that you can reference and that you can use. That just gives me like a cloud-based place where I can share that to a private link and send that to you. So then you can go in and view, the Excel sheet where I've documented all of my findings, the other reports that these tools kick out for those of you that are wanting to dig deeper and have that archive and that sort of thing. I use Google Sheets, and I'm about to show you the sheet that I use, that I walk through. That's my template. It's always changing and updating and being refined with every client almost. But in general, it's like, these 16 places are the top places to look to identify red flags of where you need to, delve deeper. I use YouTube, just like you're looking at here. I find that when it comes to delivering video, YouTube's the easiest. Everybody's phones or desktops are all, ready and optimized and waiting to load YouTube content. And that's been the easiest way. When you use these other platforms, there's a lot of other video platforms where you get more analytics as a publisher as to like where people are dropping off and that sort of thing. But I know that in a lot of cases, there's more than one interested party, and the information is being shared around and that sort of thing. And so YouTube makes it easy to just do an unlisted or a public link, depending on what's going on. I use a tool called Cora. That's Cora. It looks for correlations, uses 500 signals or over 500 signals to look at the top 100 search results for a search term. And then where your domain is, it gives you a roadmap. Wherever you are, it tells you the action items and what you need to do to make this site more appealing to Google in a technical aspect. A lot of that stuff is non-visual. Some of it's visual, like add more words. Some of it's non-visual, like add more H3 tags. But that's really dense, and it can take you some time to dig through there and understand it if you're not a very technical SEO. And even when you are a technical SEO, stuff pops up that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, that you have to dig in more. So having a video run through of that report and showing you make sense of it as well really helps you get the value out of it. I use aHrefs, or some people call it aHrefs. Then that gives me a lot of the analytics and stuff, especially if I don't have access to your Google Analytics. I can look at aHrefs and it looks at where you're ranking for particular keywords and then gives a wealth of information as to how you're doing, and especially compared to your competition, and areas that you can strengthen. So depending on your goals, then that is where we focus our time and effort. I use Google Search Engine Console sometimes, especially when a site might have some kind of penalty or uh, some kind of error. The Search Console is Google. That's their way of communicating to you, the website owner. And if they are noticing anything that they don't like or that they want you to fix, then that's the first place that you'll see it. Is Search Engine Console will let you know. That's also a good communication tool for Google, like as you make changes to your website, and it's the way to check in with Google directly as to how they're viewing your site, what they're seeing. That does require gaining access to that account. So I have a maybe next to that, and also Google Analytics, I have a maybe next to that. Sometimes, depending on the questions, I'll request access to that because I already know that there's some indicators that there's some places to check. So now let's get to the areas covered. The 16 sections are I'm going to go to the sheet real quick because then there's some areas where it's more broken out. Now, keep in mind that this is the generic framework. So some of these sections have a lot of space and some of them don't. It might be that your particular project needs to dive deeper into certain areas than others. Let's share that, and then we'll pop in here. Okay, so here we have our you'll get this Google Doc here. It'll have your domain up here. It'll have your name here. And then in this case, this is my template. So me from dropthestrap.com is performing this audit. Different sections. Here are the checks that happen in that section. And then some of them have a status, okay, like, you're all right here, or there's an issue. And then in the notes, that's the place where I can elaborate on what I'm seeing. And I'll also come in and highlight areas if I see issues or need to bring more attention. Like I know that the client or myself will be coming back, just pointing that stuff out. So we start with the first section is making sure that there is only one version of your website. So if you've been on the web long enough, you know that it all used to be www.whatever.com, and then people drop the www, and now we have to have secure websites. So HTTPS is preferred over HTTP. Well, what does that mean? It means that you might have accumulated other versions of your site. Google sees that as duplicate content, so you want to make sure Google knows that you and only you are that thing.com. So that first check is making sure that all 4 variations of this point to the same one. Now, I recommend that you HTTPS either with or without the W's. It doesn't matter to me. But Google is favoring the secure over the non-secure right now. But so that's where it starts. And then we crawl using aHrefs. And I save that report into Google Drive when I'm finished, so that you can look at it more in depth or have it on hand for you. Then we look at your indexation. So Google indexes your website. That's them recording what's on it and how they see it. And so we want to take a look in your Search Console, how many URLs. We want to go into Google, do a site colon your website, see how many URLs there, href, internal pages, make sure that these numbers are lining up, and if they're not, why. Then we do a brand search. This seems to be, when I sit down with a client and we're talking about their project initially, I mean, a lot of times we just pull up Google and we search for their brand name. And this is by far the most important search possible, because that means this is someone who's already aware of you. So something you've done, good or bad or indifferent or whatever, someone's mentioned you somehow. The person already has awareness of you. So if they're searching for you by name, you want to make, darn sure that they're finding what you want them to find. And if they're not finding what you want them to find, then you need to take actions to correct that. So this can be I see all kinds of different scenarios. There's plenty of times where we search like, okay, you got the top spot, and then next is your Facebook, and next is your Twitter, and next is your Yelp, and then your Instagram, and okay, you completely dominate this search for your brand. And then there's other cases where directory sites, other entities, spam stuff. There can be a mess out there. So that's one of those where the status could be okay, all good, or it could be just a laundry list of areas to work on. And I'll do some examples of those in the future so that you can have an example of a brand search, because that's something like standalone worth doing right there. Then we do basic on-page SEO. So what is this? A tool I like to initially use is this Browseo, which I did not list, I don't think, in my tools that I use. I should add that. Looking at title tags, meta descriptions, H tags, favicon. This is just the most important signals to Google, the most powerful signals to Google. We want to do a quick scan and identify if there's any areas there that need help. This is great too for the video aspect of this is great, because a lot of this is out of it's not visible on the site. You have to go into the site code, and that's just like looking at a website, how Google as a robot looks at a website. And that's becoming more and more important now as we move forward, as less traffic's coming to your website and Google's answering more questions in the search results. You want to make sure that information that they're pulling is coming from you, and you get that information to Google and make them confident in the information by using these header tags and that. So, and all the stuff that we're about to dive into as well. Then we take a look at your internal pages. So internal pages just means like we're going to look at all the pages on your website. We're going to look at the HTML tags for all the pages. This first one here, this basic on-page SEO, we look at your homepage, right, for these initial checks. Then this is used in aHrefs, and this is looking at all your pages. So if you have a couple hundred pages or a couple thousand pages, it's going to come back and point out the errors, the warnings, and the notices when it comes to your HTML tags. So a common one is duplicate header or title tags, or duplicate or multiple H1 tags, or missing meta descriptions. Like I said, you might not be familiar with any of these terms, and that's okay, because I'm gonna walk through and explain all of it to you. Social tags, that's just all the social sharing and the importance of social media. Make sure that you have stuff formatted properly and appropriately for those shares to Twitter and Facebook, and make sure that your shares are being formatted as you would like them to be formatted. So again, it looks at errors, warnings, and notices. Errors are what you need to update immediately. Warnings are those things that they're just giving you kind of a point out, hey, you're not following best practices, or what aHrefs considers best practices. So there's a lot of cases, warnings, you're like, okay, I'm aware, but I'm making the decision to do this. Notices is also in that same kind of bucket, like, hey, be aware of this, but probably not a big deal. Content quality, same thing. We're looking at your content. Is it in the proper format for the search engines to understand? Outgoing links, very valuable. If you're selling women's shoes, you don't want all your outbound links going to selling to chainsaw manufacturers or whatever. That's a conflict. Also spammy. You don't want to be doing spammy or linking to spammy things, because Google keeps an eye out for that. So there's errors, warnings, notices. There's some technical stuff too, as to if you're pointing to secure pages or non-secure, and if the links are anyway. Content. This is checking for the duplicate content. If you have a website and you're putting the same content out on multiple pages, you need to stop immediately, because Google filters out duplicate content, and it could be that you're filtering the page that you'd like people to go to, not the page that you just needed to put some content on. So take a look at that. Then we take a look at load speed. Your target is to get your pages to load in under 3 seconds. That's Google, and that's also kind of a subconscious thing. They find that websites that take longer than 3 seconds to load, the unconsciously or whatever, subliminally, whatever the term is, that people don't trust the websites as much, and they're more prone to leave. And how many times have you hit refresh a few times on a page, and then you finally sit there long enough and it loads, and you're already agitated? So load speed is huge, and so we look at that. Then structured data. So structured data is looking more in depth at that code that's on your website that's just for the search engines to look at. The real nerdy computer to computer talk stuff, and this is becoming extremely valuable for local SEO. If you haven't heard of schema yet, schema markup, then you need to take the time to see what is going on with your schema markup, if it's there, if it's not, and you need to address that situation immediately. So traffic. This is using aHrefs again. It's looking at your organic traffic. Your organic, like search traffic. Organic means not paid. This is showing up in the natural search rankings. And then again, this is one of those. There could be a 3-point. Here's what I'm identifying, or it could be 30 minutes of the report just talking about that alone. Organic ranking trends is looking at the history of your website. Are you gaining more organic rankings? Are you losing more organic rankings? Are you flat on the organic rankings? And then that right there determines a lot of next steps. If you're declining, there could be issues. If you're inclining, then do more of that. Make sure you don't stop doing whatever it is. And if you're flat, then what do we need to do to get it going up again? So then we look at positions 5 through 10. Why 5 through 10? Well, 1 through 3 is where majority, I'll spare you all the analytics and the statistics and all that stuff, but you want to be in the top 3 of a search on organic search. That's where all the traffic's going, top 3 slots. And it's top slot gets the most, second gets a little, and then third gets some. So when we're looking at 5 through 10, these are your first page ranking keywords. So congratulations, you're on the first page ranking in Google, and that is incredible, because the joke is, if you want to hide a dead body, you hide it on the second page of Google, because nobody goes to the next page anymore. And so looking at your 5 through 10, it's easier to bump a 5 through 10 into the top 3 than it is to write a brand new web page and bring it up from 0. So what happens here? We look at your 5 through 10, depending on your goals. If and identify what are these pages ranking for, and what's keeping them from being a 1 through 3. This is when, excuse me. This is when Cora becomes a big part of the report. So Cora, this is when I'll take an example of something that's ranking 5 through 10. If there's anything 5 through 10, then I'll pick something that's on page 2, and I'll run a correlation report on that URL for the particular search term that it's ranking for, and then identify what is this page not have or have too much of as the first page results, and especially the top 3. And you would be surprised at what maybe you wouldn't, but a lot of people are surprised at what the kickback the report usually is, because this gives an actionable roadmap. And I'll give an example of one of these. There's some out on my YouTube channel now, but I feel like I should link directly to one that associates with this audit. But it'll tell you, like, hey, you need I just did one earlier today for someone, and it was like, you need 30 more sentences on this page. You need to include the keyword one more time in the last 100 words on the page. You need 8 more H3 tags. You need 4 more exact tags. So you need 4 more exact search term links on the page. So it can be, it's over 500 indicators. So it really dials in your on-site, and you want to dial in your on-site first before you worry about off-site. On-site being like what's on your whatever.com/this page. That's where you have the most control over it. That's the easiest thing for you to update, or it should be. I know I've dealt with some cases where updates to the website weren't as easy. And also that is a extensive Excel sheet, that report. And I save that in the Google Doc when I'm finished for further use by the client. Then we take a look at your backlinks. This could turn into a significant area of the research, depending on what's found. If everything looks healthy and good, then you're good. If you don't have any, then it's okay. We need to work on this area. If it's a bunch of spammy stuff, then we need to make sure that Google knows we are not condoning this or approve of it, and we're taking the necessary actions to disassociate. Broken links. This is, have you lost any links to your website from other sites? Did they type it in wrong? Did they remove it? And you can ping them back like, hey, we noticed you removed our link, something up. Can we provide you some kind of more valuable content or something to get back listed? We appreciate, you linking us, that sort of thing. Then we identify content gaps. Again, this is taking a very data-driven approach to what is ranking for what. So what happens here? We look at your competing domains, and their aHrefs provides tools to look at this, reporting tools. We look at 3 domains that you're competing with. Now, just to give you an example, say if you're a restaurant or an e-commerce site, in this case, we would not look at the big juggernauts as your competition. We would not look at the Amazon.com pages or the Yelp pages or the TripAdvisor pages. That those massive directories are kind of they're kind of a world of their own, unless you're a massive directory and you're competing against them. Most people are not. Most people have their own domain, and they have their own particular goals, and they're not trying to beat Amazon at selling whatever they're selling. So we take the 3 that look like you, 3 competitors that are most like you, and we identify what search terms are they getting high organic traffic. So it could be that you're selling a product. This is just to give you an example. If you're selling coffee mugs, I have a coffee mug right next to me. If you're selling coffee mugs and so Amazon sells coffee mugs, obviously we would not use coffee mugs. Amazon, we would find the other, like uglycoffeemugs.com or coffeemugshere.com. We look at what are we overlapping keyword wise? Is that the kind of keywords we're interested in? If yes, then we look at what high volume keyword search terms they have that we don't. So if it's buy coffee mugs here or best coffee mugs available, and we're not ranking and they are, and like they're just like us, what are they doing that we're not doing? So this gets a lot of strategy, and next steps is driven off of this information, because they've shown us how they've ranked for it. We can investigate and find out. So then we know what we're missing. From there is the 16th step, which might come to as a surprise to some people, or it does come as a surprise to some people, and a lot of it's removing pages from your site. This is especially relevant for your websites that have been around for a while. there was a time not very long ago when if you found a search term and you typed up 300 words and published a page, then you could rank for it. And for that reason, there's all these websites with hundreds, thousands of pages with very thin, low content. And now Google's really looking towards that that if you're looking for a long tail search term, a longer search phrase, they'd rather send you to a huge, massive piece of content, that 4,000 word epic piece of content that covers any and all aspects of the overall topic, than send you to a page that has 300 words addressing your specific. If it's short like that, if it's like a 300 words can sum it all up and it's really just one sentence, then Google's kind of looking to answer that in the search results themselves with the snippets and like when you ask like what the score is to a ball game and they don't send you to NBA.com anymore, they just like give you the score. If it's something short and sweet, and usually 300 words is just like a minimum, like you really can answer it in a sentence, then Google's probably snagging that to deliver in the search results. So I digress. But so the content pruning is like, all right, well, we first find your low quality pages, so your thin content pages that have no search ranking, no organic search traffic. So they're not doing anything for you except showing Google, hey, they have more pages that no one's going to. So from there, we identify, all right, do we want to improve these pages to help them rank higher, or do we want to get rid of them? So if you get rid of them, then, or you delete them and then you redirect 301 to another relevant page. So it might be that you've got, 5, 10 very thin content pages on a topic, and you have one page that you can just take all the content from those thin and add it to the big, and then delete the thins and point to the big. That's a very common SEO health improvement practice that's taking place right now. All right, let me stop this and come back to the video. So that is the run through of a 16-point SEO audit. That's pretty much a rundown of where it all begins. You come to me, we talk about what you got, what you want to achieve goal wise, and then we take a look at what you have and then identify what are the next steps, what's the strategy, what's going to take to get there, how do we want to eat that elephant, and then work from there. So if you're interested in getting one of these done for your project, just reach out and contact me. You can use the contact us form on dropthestrap.com. In the message there, just say, hey, I need an audit. We also, totally accept communication through the phone or text or Facebook chat. You can tweet me, Phineas, whatever. However you want to get the conversation started, then let's talk. And I look forward to speaking with you. Have a great day.